My name is Aaron Peterson, and I should have never gone near the treehouse again. When my parents bought the old house on the hill, they didn't tell us much about the history. They were more focused on the quiet setting, the space, and the overgrown garden that needed work. There was a large treehouse in the backyard, almost hidden by the thick branches of an ancient oak tree. At first, I thought it was just a part of the house's charm, an old relic that would add some character to our new life. But my sister, Lucy, was obsessed with it from the start. She'd spend hours in the treehouse playing with her dolls and speaking to herself. I never paid much attention to her stories, dismissing them as childish imagination. That is, until I started to hear her strange conversations. One day, I climbed up to see what she was doing, but the treehouse was empty. I didn't think much of it until the following night, when Lucy came running into my room, her face pale. "Aaron," she whispered, "I don't want to go back to the treehouse." "What do you mean?" I asked, rubbing my eyes. "What happened?" It's different. There are things in there. Things that whisper." She shuddered, her voice trembling. I laughed it off, thinking it was just her wild imagination, running away with her. But the next day, I noticed something strange. The treehouse was darker than usual, even though the sun was high in the sky. The air around it felt thick, suffocating. I tried to shake off the unease creeping up my spine, but I couldn't. That night, I heard it too. The whispering. It started as a soft murmur, barely audible, but it grew louder. I thought it was just the wind, but then I realized it wasn't the wind. It was a voice. "Aaron, Aaron, come closer." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The voice wasn't coming from the wind. It was coming from the treehouse. Without thinking, I grabbed my flashlight and crept outside. The moon hung low, casting an eerie glow on the treehouse. It was even darker now, the branches twisted in strange, unnatural angles, as if they were reaching for something or someone. I shined my flashlight up at the treehouse. The whispers continued, now clear, but still indecipherable. I took a step forward, then another. The closer I got, the more the air seemed to press in around me, heavy and thick. When I reached the ladder, I hesitated. Something about it didn't feel right, but the voice, it called to me again. "Aaron, come closer. We've been waiting." I didn't want to go up. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to turn back, but I couldn't. The pull was too strong. I climbed the ladder. As soon as I stepped into the treehouse, I felt it. The air was thick, choking. I couldn't breathe. The whispers intensified, now all around me. But when I looked around, I saw nothing. Then, I heard the crack. The branches, which had once been sturdy and unmoving, shifted. They groaned and creaked, as if something were pushing them from within. I turned to see what was happening, and that's when I saw it. A hollow-shaped something inside the tree itself. It was like a cavity in the bark, pulsating, alive. I stepped closer, my feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. But the closer I got to the hollow, the more I felt it. Something was watching me. Something was waiting. Suddenly, the branches around me shifted again, and a form emerged from the hollow. Its arms, long and thin, its face pale, with hollow eyes that seemed to stretch into the darkness. "Aaron," it whispered, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You're ours now." I stumbled backward, falling toward the ladder. I ran down, not stopping until I was back inside the house, my heart pounding in my chest. I haven't seen Lucy since that night. She's not around anymore. The treehouse is empty now, but I can hear the whispers. They call to me, pulling me toward the hollow branches, begging me to return. But I won't. I know better now. I'm Tom Mitchell, and if I hadn't heard the whispers, I never would have gone back. It started when my family moved into the old cabin nestled in the woods. It wasn't much, just a small structure with a decaying wood exterior, surrounded by trees on all sides. But it was a perfect getaway, far away from the noise of the city, a place to reconnect with nature. My parents thought it would be ideal for a family retreat. There was a treehouse in the backyard, a relic from the cabin's previous owners. The wood was old and splintered, the ladder a little wobbly, but still sturdy enough to climb. My younger sister Ellie was the first to make her way up, calling to me from the top. "Tom, come up here. It's amazing." Reluctantly, I followed her. There was something unsettling about the treehouse, though I couldn't quite place it. As soon as I reached the top, I felt a sudden chill, even though the day had been warm. The air felt thinner, almost suffocating, as if the forest was closing in on me. Ellie didn't seem to notice. She was already exploring the small space, her laughter echoing in the trees. I tried to push the feeling away, but I couldn't ignore the unease growing in the pit of my stomach. It was that night when things started to change. I woke up to a sound, a whispering voice, drifting through the open window. It was faint at first, but it grew louder the longer I listened. At first, I thought it was just the wind, rustling through the trees, but the whispers weren't natural. They were words that I couldn't quite make out. Tom, Tom. Come to the TREEHOUSE. My heart raced. I sat up in bed, staring at the dark window. The voice was distant, but it felt so close, as if it were right outside the cabin. I tried to shake it off, but the whispers continued, each time louder and more insistent. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and slipped out of the house, the cold night air sending shivers down my spine. The whispers grew louder with each step I took toward the treehouse. I reached the base of the tree and looked up. The treehouse stood there, looming in the darkness. I could barely see the outline of it, but I could feel the presence. The whispers were no longer faint, they were clear now, calling my name. Tom, Tom, come to us, I don't know why I did it, but I climbed the ladder. Step after step, I forced myself upward, even though every instinct told me to turn back. When I reached the top, the whispers stopped, and then I saw it. A figure stood in the corner of the treehouse, half hidden in shadow. At first I thought it was Ellie, but the figure was too still, too unnaturally still. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw its face, or what was left of it. It was pale and gaunt. Its skin stretched tight over hollow bones. Its eyes were wide and empty, as if they had been drained of all life. I stumbled back, my breath caught in my throat. The figure didn't move, but it tilted its head slowly, as if studying me. The whispers returned, now louder than ever. Join us, . I ran. I didn't stop until I was back inside the cabin, heart pounding in my chest. I haven't been back to the treehouse since. Every time I close my eyes, I can hear the whispers in the wind, calling me back. But I know better now. I know that some places are meant to be left alone, and the TREEHOUSE. It's not just a TREEHOUSE. It's something else. My name is Jenna Clark, and I'll never look at a treehouse the same way again. We had just moved to the countryside, away from the bustling city life. My parents thought it would be the perfect place for us to relax and reconnect as a family. Our new house was charming, an old farmhouse surrounded by dense woods. It felt like something out of a storybook, and I was excited to spend the summer exploring. The treehouse was the first thing my little brother, Ben, fell in love with. It was built high in a towering oak, its wooden planks weathered and faded from years of exposure to the elements. It was a bit rickety, but Ben didn't seem to mind. He'd run up there every chance he got, calling to me from above to come play. I avoided it at first. There was something about the place that unsettled me. Maybe it was the way the branches of the trees seemed to twist unnaturally. or how the house seemed to stand out of place in the middle of the forest. But eventually, I gave in. One evening, after dinner, Ben practically dragged me to the treehouse. He was giddy, bouncing with excitement. "Come on, Jenna. It's fun up here," he begged. I followed him reluctantly, still feeling a sense of unease as we climbed the wooden ladder. The air smelled damp, like moss, and the light was fading fast. We entered the small, cozy space, the floorboards creaking under our weight. I wasn't there long before I started to feel it. There was something wrong. The air felt thick, heavy, and the space felt smaller than it had when I'd been up there before. My skin crawled. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't ignore the sensation that we weren't alone. Ben seemed oblivious to my discomfort. He was at the far end of the treehouse, staring out at the woods. His back was to me, and I heard him whisper something. I thought he was talking to himself, but then I realized he wasn't alone. "Ben," I called, my voice trembling slightly. He didn't respond. I stood up, walking over to him, but as I did, I saw them eyes, two glowing, yellow eyes staring at us from the shadows. They were high up, near the rafters of the treehouse. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the fading light, but no, these eyes blinked. They were watching us, unblinking and unblinking. My heart skipped a beat. "Ben, we need to go. Now," I said, my voice low but firm. Ben didn't move. He was still, staring out the window, his hands pressed against the glass. It was like he couldn't hear me at all. I rushed over to him, grabbing his shoulder. "Ben, let's go." But as I turned him around, I saw it. There was something standing behind him. It was tall, its shape distorted by the shadows, but its face was clear. Its features were twisted, no nose, no mouth, just hollow, dark eyes that stared at me with a hunger I couldn't describe. I shoved Ben toward the ladder. "Get down, now," I screamed. We rushed down the ladder, and as I looked up at the treehouse, I saw the figure in the window still watching. We didn't go back to the treehouse after that. My parents thought we were just scared of being up high, but I knew better. The eyes were still there, and they were still watching. I'm Owen Bailey, and there's something I'll never forget about that. TREEHOUSE. When we first moved to the house in the woods, I was excited. It was a fresh start, a chance to escape the chaos of city life. My brother, Nathan, and I had spent weeks exploring the forest, discovering hidden trails, and just soaking in the peace that surrounded us. The treehouse was a perfect addition to our new home, built high up in a tall pine, far away from anyone's reach. I remember the first time I went up there alone. I had been avoiding it for a while, convinced that it was just a place for kids to play and imagine, not a place for a 14-year-old like me. But one afternoon, I decided to check it out. I climbed a ladder and sat on the wooden floor, looking out over the forest. It was quiet, too quiet. The trees were still, and the air was thick with the scent of pine. I could hear nothing but the occasional rustle of leaves. But then I noticed something strange. Carved into the wood of the floor was a message. At first, I thought it was just the typical graffiti that kids leave behind. But as I leaned closer, I saw that it was different. The words were jagged, uneven, and the carving wasn't new. It had been there for years, maybe decades. The message read, "Don't let them in." It sent a chill down my spine. I ran my fingers over the words, but there was no indication of who had written it. My mind raced with questions. Who had been here before? What did it mean? I tried to brush it off, telling myself that it was probably just some prank. But something in the back of my mind told me it wasn't. Something felt wrong. The next few days were peaceful enough. Nathan and I spent more time in the treehouse, playing, talking, pretending. But every now and then, my gaze would drift to that message, and the unease would return, and then it happened. One night, long after we'd gone to bed, I woke up to a strange sound. It was faint, like scratching, coming from outside. At first, I thought it was just an animal in the trees, but the sound grew louder, sharper, and it started to moving closer to the house. I went to Nathan's room and woke him up. "Do you hear that?" I whispered. He nodded, his eyes wide with fear. "It's coming from the treehouse." We grabbed flashlights and crept outside, the cool night air sending shivers down my spine. As we reached the treehouse, the scratching sound stopped. Everything was still. But there, on the floor of the treehouse, was something new, a new carving. This one was fresh, recent, and it looked like it had been made with frantic, trembling hands. The message was short, but it sent a shock through me. "There. Here." We didn't wait around. We ran back to the house, heart pounding in my chest, but no matter how fast we ran, we couldn't shake the feeling that something was following us. The feeling that something was just beyond the trees, watching us. We never went back to that treehouse. Years later, after we moved away from the house, I found out that the previous owners had vanished without a trace. They were a family pair, 2 kids, but no one knew what had happened to them. They had just disappeared. I don't know what was in that treehouse, but I know it wasn't friendly, and I know it's still waiting for someone else to read its messages. My name is Alex Harper, and the treehouse was the last place I ever wanted to be. We had just moved into the house at the edge of town, a large, old place surrounded by trees. The first thing my dad did was build me and my sister, Emma, a treehouse. He thought it would be a fun way for us to settle into our new home. At first I loved it. I'd climb up there every day, reading books, playing games, just enjoying the peace and quiet. But as the days went on, I started feeling uneasy. The treehouse was built high in a massive oak tree, its roots stretching deep into the ground. It was sturdy, but the higher I climbed, the more it felt like the air grew heavier. There was a sense of being watched, even when no one was around. One evening, I decided to spend the night up there. Emma wasn't interested in joining me, so I went alone, bringing only a flashlight and a blanket. The wind was blowing softly, and the trees whispered in the distance. I was comfortable at first, lying on the floor of the treehouse, gazing up at the stars. But then I heard it, a faint, hollow sound at first. I thought it was just the tree swaying, but it came again. It sounded like something moving within the trunk of the tree itself, low, thudding noise, like a heartbeat. I got up and shone my flashlight into the dark, but there was nothing there then. A scraping sounds, slow and deliberate. I turned, shining the beam of light across the wooden floor, and that's when I saw it. A small hole, barely noticeable, in the corner of the treehouse. It looked like something had burrowed into the wood, creating a hollow space inside the tree. It wasn't big, just a small gap, but there was something strange about it. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching me. I tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just a knot in the wood, or a crack formed by the weather. But the thudding sound continued, and then I heard a whisper, "Help me, ... The voice was soft, desperate. It sounded like it was coming from the hole, from inside the tree. My heart raced. I wasn't alone in that treehouse. I quickly grabbed my things and tried to leave, but the ladder was gone. I couldn't see it. The entrance was blocked. I felt trapped. Panic set in as I heard the whisper again, louder this time. "Help me, Alex, ... I turned toward the hole, and that's when I saw it. A pair of eyes, glowing faintly in the darkness inside the tree. They were watching me, their gaze piercing through the shadows. And then, the hole seemed to expand, stretching wider, growing bigger until something began to crawl out. It was long, thin, and covered in bark-like skin, its limbs impossibly long. It moved with a strange, jerky motion, like it was dragging itself out of the hollow. inch by inch. I screamed, backing away, as the thing emerged from the hole. Its mouth was open wide, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I don't know how I got down, but I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember, I was lying on the ground, looking up at the treehouse from below. The treehouse was silent. The hole was gone. I never went near that tree again. We moved away shortly after that night, but sometimes I hear the thudding noise, like something is still inside the tree, waiting to crawl out. And I know, hasn't forgotten me. My name is Chloe Davis, and I wish I had never stepped foot in that treehouse. It was a gift from our parents when we moved to the new house, a large, sprawling property on the edge of town, surrounded by acres of forest. My brother, Luke, and I were thrilled. The treehouse was old, but sturdy, built high up in a towering oak that overlooked the entire property. We spent the first few weeks playing in it, pretending to be pirates, adventurers, and explorers. But there was something strange about it, something we couldn't quite put our finger on. The first time I noticed it, I thought I was imagining things. It was late afternoon, and I was sitting in the treehouse by myself, reading a book. The wind rustled through the leaves, and I could hear the distant sound of birds. But there was something else, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. At first I thought it was just the wind, but then it came again. Chloe ... The voice was soft, barely audible, but it was unmistakable. It sounded ... friendly, like someone was calling my name. I glanced around, expecting to see Luke or one of our parents, but no one was in sight. I shook my head, chalking it up to my imagination, but the whispers didn't stop. The next day, I was back in the treehouse, this time with Luke. We were playing a game when I heard it again, this time louder. Chloe ... Luke ... Luke froze, his eyes widening. Did you hear that? Yeah, I did, I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. We both looked around, but there was no one, not a single soul in sight. The forest was eerily quiet now, the sounds of nature replaced by the constant whispering that seemed to come from the walls of the treehouse itself. Come closer. The voice was more insistent now, filled with a strange longing. It was calling us. I wanted to leave, but something in me, something deep and unsettling, told me to stay. I stepped forward, closer to the edge of the treehouse, peering out into the forest. And that's when I saw it. There, among the shadows of the trees, a figure was standing. It was tall, impossibly tall, with dark, flowing hair that moved like it was being blown by a breeze. But there was no wind. The figure's face was hidden in the darkness, and its eyes glowed faintly. Come closer, Chloe ... Luke ... I could feel it, feel the pull, the need to go to it. My body started to move before I even realized it. Luke grabbed my arm, panic flashing in his eyes. Chloe, no, we have to go. But I couldn't move. The whispering grew louder, louder than ever before. It was like the trees themselves were speaking, urging us to follow. Suddenly, everything went silent. I don't remember what happened next. One moment, I was standing in the treehouse, and the next, I was on the ground, lying on the grass, the treehouse miles away. Luke was beside me, shaking me awake. Chloe, are you okay? I looked up at him, confused. I didn't know how I'd gotten there. I didn't know what had happened to the treehouse. But the whispering had stopped. We never went back to the treehouse. It remained there, abandoned, its eerie presence hanging over us. The whispers, the figure, everything about that place seemed to vanish, almost as if it had never existed at all. But I know it did. I felt it, and I know, deep down, that the thing in the forest is still waiting for someone else to hear its call. My name is Ethan Green, and I learned that some mysteries are better left unsolved. It was supposed to be the perfect summer getaway, a cabin in the woods. Just the four of us. My parents, my little sister Lily, and me. No distractions, just fresh air, quiet nights, and a whole lot of time to explore the wilderness. We didn't expect to find anything strange. Nothing other than the usual forest creatures and the occasional rustling in the trees. But then there was the treehouse. We had heard about it before we arrived, though the stories were vague. Some locals mentioned it in passing, but no one ever spoke too much about it. An old, abandoned treehouse, deep in the forest. Some said it was haunted. Some said it was just a place where kids used to hang out before it was forgotten, of course. I had to check it out. One afternoon, while my parents were busy unpacking, I grabbed a flashlight and headed into the woods. Lily tagged along, pestering me about how she wanted to see the treehouse too. It took us a good hour to find it. The treehouse wasn't on any trail, hidden deep among the thick branches of an ancient oak. When we finally found it, it looked like something out of a nightmare. The wooden platform was weathered and cracked, the walls covered in moss, and the ladder leading up to the door creaked as though it had been neglected for years. The air around it felt heavy, charged, like something was waiting for us. Lily grabbed my sleeve. "I don't like it here, Ethan," but I wasn't scared. I was intrigued. I told her to wait below and climbed up to investigate. When I stepped into the treehouse, a chill ran down my spine. The place was empty, but there was something about it that didn't feel right. The floorboards were uneven, the windows cracked, and the walls were covered in strange, twisted drawings, symbols that looked almost like they were scratched into the wood with claws. I pulled out my flashlight, sweeping the beam across the room. That's when I saw them eyes. At first I thought it was just the reflection of my flashlight in the dark corners of the treehouse. But as I looked closer, I realized there were hundreds of eyes, dozens of them, all staring back at me from the walls, the floor, even the ceiling, and they were moving. Slowly, they shifted, following my every movement. I froze. My heart began to pound in my chest as the eyes grew larger, more intense, like they were alive. Some blinked, others narrowed as though they were watching me closely. "Ethan." I turned to see Lily standing below, her voice shaky. "What's going on up there?" But I couldn't respond. I couldn't take my eyes off the walls. I stepped back, my breath coming in short gasps. As I moved, the eyes followed me, all of them tracking my every step. I reached for the ladder, but then I heard something, an eerie whisper. "Stay with us, ... The voice was faint, like it was coming from deep within the walls, from the very wood itself. I stumbled backward, my foot hitting something that wasn't there. The floorboard beneath me cracked open, and I tumbled to the ground below. Lily screamed. As I hit the dirt, the treehouse now eerily still, the eyes gone. I didn't tell her what I had seen. I couldn't. She was too young, and I didn't want her to be afraid. But that night, as we sat around the campfire, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I looked into the trees, into the darkness beyond, and I could swear I saw them, the eyes, still watching. We left the cabin the next morning, but I know the eyes are still out there. I can feel them, even now, watching from the woods. And I know I'll never be able to forget the way they followed me, the way they saw me. My name is Michael Wells, and I'll never forget the shadow that followed me that summer. We'd just moved into a new house, one tucked far away from the bustle of the city. It was on the outskirts of town, surrounded by dense forest. My sister, Grace, and I were excited. There were so many new places to explore. The best part, the giant treehouse at the edge of our yard. It was a bit worn and covered in ivy, but it was ours. I spent hours up there every day, enjoying the peace and the solitude. But as time passed, I started noticing something strange. The shadows. It wasn't just the way the sunlight filtered through the trees. and cast long shapes on the floor. It was the shadows that didn't belong, that moved when they shouldn't have. At first, I thought it was my imagination, maybe the trees swaying in the breeze, or the creaking of the wooden beams. But as the days went on, I started to feel like I wasn't alone in that treehouse. It started small, just a shift in the corner of my eye, a shadow darting out of view before I could focus. But the more I ignored it, the more persistent it became. One evening, as the sun began to set, I climbed up to the treehouse with Grace. We were going to play games and enjoy the cool evening air. But as soon as I stepped inside, I felt a presence. The shadows were thicker now, pressing in from all sides. They seemed to move, swirling around the corners of the treehouse. The walls felt suffocating, and I could see dark shapes flickering just outside my line of sight. Michael. What's wrong? Grace's voice trembled as she noticed a sudden change in the atmosphere. I don't know, I whispered, my breath catching in my throat. Something's not right. That's when I saw it. In the far corner of the treehouse, a shadow took form. It wasn't just a shape anymore. It had depth. It had substance. It was standing there, tall and unnaturally thin, its elongated arms stretched out toward me. Its face was hidden in the darkness, but I could feel its gaze, empty and full of malice. I froze. Grace, sensing my panic, grabbed my arm. Let's go back inside, Michael. But as she turned to leave, the door slammed shut with a violent bang. The shadow didn't move. It just stood there, watching. Then it spoke. Stay with me. The voice was deep, gravelly, like something ancient, and it sent a wave of terror through my entire body. I tried to move, to scream, but I couldn't. My body felt paralyzed, locked in place by the coldness in the air. Grace was tugging at the door, her eyes wide with fear. Michael, we need to get out of here. I could see the shadow creeping closer, its long fingers stretching out to touch the walls. The temperature dropped, and I could feel a pressure building in the air, like the whole treehouse was about to collapse. With a final, desperate tug, Grace managed to pry open the door, and we ran down the ladder, not daring to look back. We never went near the treehouse again. In the days that followed, things got worse. Every time I passed by the treehouse, I could feel the shadow watching me from within, just out of reach. At night, I could hear whispers in the dark, calling me back. The pressure, the presence, it was always there. Lingering just out of sight, we moved away from the house a few months later, but the memory of the shadow still haunts me. And every time I see a house, I can't help but remember the thing that was waiting for me, the thing that is still waiting. My name is Sophia Miller, and I'll never forget what I found inside the treehouse that summer. When my family moved to the small town of Willowbrook, we thought we were escaping the chaos of the city for good. Our new house was perfect for secluded, peaceful, and surrounded by nature. But what caught my attention the most was the ancient tree in the backyard, a massive oak, its gnarled branches sprawling out like arms reaching for the sky. Nestled in its branches was a treehouse, old and weathered, but still standing strong. My brother, Lucas, and I decided to make it our secret hideout, away from our parents and the boring routine of suburbia. We spent every afternoon there, playing games, reading books, and pretending we were explorers. But there was one thing about that treehouse that made me uneasy. The hollow in the far corner of the treehouse, hidden behind some old wooden crates. There was a small hole in the floor. It wasn't very big, just big enough to fit my hand through. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking it was just a gap in the wood, but it always seemed to pull at my curiosity. I couldn't stop thinking about what might be hiding down there. One day, I decided to investigate. I told Lucas I'd be right back, and I knelt down by the hole, pushing aside the crates to get a better look. My fingers brushed against something cold, a small metal latch, hidden in the darkness beneath the floorboards. With trembling hands, I pulled the latch, and the floor beneath me creaked open. What I saw below took my breath away. A narrow, winding staircase. The steps were old and broken, covered in a thick layer of dust, and the air smelled stale. But there was something else, a soft, muffled sound coming from the depths. A low, rhythmic thumping, like something was breathing. I froze. "Sophia, what are you doing?" It was Lucas, his voice faint as he climbed up to the treehouse. I slammed the hatch shut, my heart pounding. I didn't want him to see what I had found. Not yet. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the staircase. The feeling that something was down there, waiting for me. I had to know what it was. The next afternoon, I went back to the treehouse, by myself. Lucas was busy with his friends, and my parents were napping inside. I grabbed a flashlight and made my way up to the hollow in the floor. I hesitated before pulling the latch again. The noise was louder now, more distinct. With a deep breath, I opened the floor. The stairs creaked as I descended, my flashlight flickering in the darkness. The air grew colder with each step, and I could feel something watching me from below. The thumping noise was closer now, and I could feel my pulse racing. Finally, I reached the bottom. The flashlight beam landed on what looked like a small room carved into the earth. The walls were covered in strange symbols, etched into the stone like ancient runes. The thumping was louder now, almost deafening. And then I saw it. In the center of the room was a large, twisted tree root, pulsing with an eerie green glow. The root seemed to be alive, writhing and shifting in the ground, and from deep inside it, something was breathing slow, labored, and unnatural. "Sophia, ... The voice came from the shadows, deep and guttural. It wasn't human. It was something else, something ancient. I turned to run, but the room seemed to close in around me. The walls were shifting, and the ground trembled beneath my feet. I felt hands cold, skeletal hands gripping at my ankles, pulling me back, toward the tree root. I fought to break free, but the grip was too strong. With one last scream, I wrenched myself loose, scrambling back up the stairs and slamming the hatch shut behind me. I never went back to that treehouse. And as far as I know, no one ever will. The tree is still there, but now it feels different. I can hear the thumping when I pass by it, and sometimes I swear I see shadows moving in the branches. Something is still down there, waiting. My name is Mark Carter, and I wish I had never stepped foot in that treehouse. When we first moved to the countryside, my sister Emma and I were thrilled. The house was surrounded by tall, thick trees, and there was even a large old oak in the backyard with a treehouse built into it. It looked like something out of a storybook, like the kind of place where adventures happened, the kind of place I could escape to when I wanted to be alone. But there was something strange about that treehouse. Every time I climbed up there, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but it only got worse the more I visited. One evening, I decided to go up there by myself. Emma was inside the house, and my parents were busy unpacking. The air was warm, and the sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows on the ground. As I climbed the ladder, I noticed that the old wood creaked beneath my weight. It had always been like that, but this time, the creaking seemed different, heavier. I reached the top and stepped inside the treehouse. It was small, but cozy, with a few windows that let in the fading light. I sat down on the wooden floor, looking out over the property, and that's when I heard it. A soft whisper, coming from the corner. I froze, my heart pounded in my chest. I tried to brush it off as the wind, but it wasn't. The whisper wasn't the wind. It was a voice. "Mark, come closer." I stood up, feeling my legs tremble. I moved toward the corner. where I thought I'd heard the voice. But as I reached it, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was no one there, just a shadow, a dark, swirling mass that seemed to grow larger. The closer I got, then it spoke again, louder this time. "Leave." I turned and ran for the ladder, but as I looked down, I saw something that made me stop. The entire tree was moving. The branches swayed unnaturally, twisting as if something was pulling them, and from the base of the trunk, a figure emerged. It wasn't human. It was tall and gaunt, its skin a pale, mottled gray. Its eyes were hollow, empty pits of blackness, and its mouth stretched into a twisted grin. "Leave the treehouse, Mark," it hissed. I didn't need to be told twice. I scrambled down the ladder and ran toward the house, not daring to look back. When I got inside, I slammed the door shut and locked it. My heart was still racing, my hands shaking. I told Emma what happened, but she didn't believe me. She said I was just imagining things. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure, its hollow eyes, its twisted grin. And every time I tried to leave my room, I heard the whisper again, "Come back to the treehouse." The next day, we moved out. We didn't even bother to pack all of our things. I couldn't stay there any longer. To this day, I don't know what that thing was, or why it wanted me to go back to the treehouse, but I can still hear it sometimes. At night, the whisper, always calling me back, and I'll never go near that treehouse again.